What's happening, all you minties? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today I'm going to be doing an advanced look at all these trades that are coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So, let's get started. Welcome back, everybody. Now, before getting started, one very important thing I want to say is happy anniversary to the astonishing Melanie. Today is the 21st, and yeah, we got married on June 21st, 2008. It seems like a lifetime ago, and then it doesn't, if that makes sense. But anyway, yeah, here I am on June 21st, even though I'm recording this before June. Anyway, I also want to give a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these books. All of these books are due out in the direct market and book market on June 21st or 22nd, depending on where you get your books. But here we are with a couple of Epic collections. Even though I did an X Factor Epic collection overview last week, I believe that book is officially coming out today or tomorrow, again, depending on where you get your books. We got 3 trades and 2 epics to look at today, one big reprint. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, I always put timestamps in the description of the video so you can jump around in case you're not interested in a particular book or you don't want any spoilers at all for them. So first up is Spider-Woman. This is volume 4, and it is called Devil's Reign. So it is tying into the Devil's Reign series. Here's all the creators right there, Pacheco and Perez, and Darmarta. And there we go, Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, Devil's Reign. I believe this is the first book I've read that is in the Devil's Reign era. So it's... how do I put this? It's not confusing. It seems to be a little bit of a time skip in it. And sadly, this is also the final Spider-Woman by Carla Pacheco. Apparently, this is the final issue is collected in here. So this collects issues 17 through 21 of the series that started in 2020. And if you've not been reading it, it is freaking awesome. I love to see Jessica Drew like this. It almost feels like she had a reconnecting with family in every story arc, going back and seeing old friends. So if you're familiar with the character of Jessica Drew, her original run on Spider-Woman, or any of the most recent runs that introduced a lot of characters, those characters pop in and out of the series while being introduced to new family members. I thought that was so cool that Carla was able to use a lot of old characters and bring them back. For example, we have the character of Lindsay McCabe. She shows up in here, and she was the stunt lady working in Hollywood. I believe it was Mark Gruenwald that created her during her run. She shows up in this, so it's after the big fight that Jessica Drew had with her brother. She's got her arm broken, and she comes and helps out Lindsay with some real ninjas. Now, this is what I mean by a little bit of a time jump. I'm not going to show exactly what's going on because I think this reveals the main plot of Devil's Reign. I know it was a big Chip Zdarsky Daredevil thing, so I don't want to spoil that for anybody, so I'm just going to skip the little recap page. But so Lindsay goes missing at the end of this issue, and in this issue, Jessica is carrying her in her arms like she's been wounded. Something has happened. Now, it is explained what happened to her. It's not revealed until I believe the second part of this, but for a second it really did feel like, oh, I haven't read Devil's Reign yet, so I think I'm missing something. Everything you need is here. Now, if you are interested in the Devil's Reign event, I think I would read that before reading this. It's not out in trade paperback yet, so maybe hold up on reading this if this is the way you read books in trade paperback format or collected editions format. Because it does spoil something about the Kingpin and why he is after Jessica Drew. It spoils a little bit of something that happened within Devil's Reign and the Kingpin, and why he is after every superhero, just about. So we do have this issue right here where we have 2 Spider-Women. One of them is evil and going after Jessica's son, and the other one is, of course, Jessica Drew trying to protect her son. So there's this big, huge fight. You could find out exactly what's going on here. I'm not going to spoil that. I thought that was a really cool throwback. Her friends do come back. That is one thing I really have enjoyed about this series. And for that matter, the Captain Marvel series by Kelly Thompson, is the addition of all these friends that they've had throughout the years and now being a big part of their supporting cast. And then the final two issues, I will say, it felt like that Carlo Pacheco was building for something bigger than this. So when they come about, it feels like that was rushed, like the final two issues, and they were okay. Not what I was expecting, but the artwork, my goodness, by Pere Perez, so good. I hope to see him on other things. Some of the variant covers are collected on the opposite page of the standard edition covers, and there's a lot of returning characters in the final issue. And it's a pretty good send off, but I hope to see the two creators back. Let's look at the extras. So I'm just showcasing a couple of the variant covers because some of the other variant covers have some spoilers in them. Now, the book retails for $15.99. The only thing missing, I think, was just her new costume. I love her new costume. And it has 112 pages. Give me that Johnny Blaze, baby. I saw that, the return of Blaze, and I got excited. So this takes place after the Ed Brisson series. These a couple of trade paperbacks that he did. So this is the return of Blaze. And during this time, if you've not read the Ed Brisson series, well, you get to quickly get caught up that now Johnny Blaze is the ruler of hell and Mephisto is caught here on Earth. Like he is physically chained up. So during this time, you have Johnny Blaze just become the ruler of hell. Lilith is trying to kind of guide him. And of course, this is Lilith, right? So you know she's a villain. So she's always up to no good. So she teams up with Belasco to kind of overthrow Blaze. And of course, that doesn't go the way that she thinks it's going to go. Now, this is also the return of Danny Ketch and the new caretaker. What's her name? Sarah. Now, Danny, it's good to see him again because he was my Ghost Rider. And in this, he takes a new guise. He becomes something different. He becomes something called the Death Rider. And this is when Jack-o'-lantern comes back, like he's given the chance to come back from hell. And then this is what Danny Ketch looks like now. So I had not read this when I read the King in Black tie-in. And that's what the next book is. It's the King in Black tie-in. Now, some time has happened between this one-shot right here, the return of Blaze, of Johnny Blaze, and the King in Black. So this does collect the Ghost Rider Mother of Demons one-shot, King in Black Ghost Rider, and Ghost Rider Return of Vengeance, which is a little bit of a spoiler. But then again, so is the Return of Blaze title that they gave the book. So this is the team-up between all these unlikely alliances to take down the King in Black. So Null and all his dragons, this dark dragons that he has all over the city. So you have Blackheart, the new Death Rider, and Caretaker team up with Ghost Rider. You know, Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider and Mephisto to try to form an alliance temporarily, of course, because you know nothing ever goes right whenever you're teaming up with demons. So that one was an excellent tie-in, I thought, and it makes more sense now having read the Mother of Demons one-shot first. The most important thing in here, though, if you're a fan of the 90s Ghost Rider, is this one-shot here. Now, this one-shot is called The Return of Vengeance. So it is the return of Michael Badalino, who was the character of Vengeance, first introduced in the pages of Howard Mackey's run on Ghost Rider. And speaking of Howard Mackey, he comes back to write this particular one-shot. But it's not just Howard Mackey that comes back. It's also Javier Salatares, who was the artist on Ghost Rider that helped launch the Danny Ketch era of Ghost Rider. So it's really cool to see these two creators back. And I know there's a big division when it comes to Howard Mackey. I think he gets a lot of hate. He gets thrown into this loop of bad 90s writers. But he did a lot of great things in the 90s for some of us. I'd say most of us. We enjoyed the hell out of Ghost Rider. I think that, to me, outshines all the bad things that he did write. So it was really cool to see this again, to see him writing the character of Michael. One thing I will say, though, is that the cover is different than the covers I've seen. I've actually seen the cover to Vengeance one-shot out there in the solicitations. I know when I was doing the upcoming solicitations for the month of June that I remember seeing that particular cover. The book retails for $15.99 and it has 112 pages. Let's look at the extras in the back. So here's a little information about the Return of Vengeance, how it started 4 years prior to the book actually being printed. Some variant covers by Stephanie Hans and Aaron Cooter there. Jen Bartel, I've always been a fan of her colors, my goodness. Gerald Parrell, and Ryan Stegman and Ron Garney. I really could have sworn that was Adam Kubert. That is a Kyle Hutz. Yeah. You can tell by the shadows. Guy's a phenomenal artist. And then you have some original pages in here, pencils and inks. I love when they throw extras like this in here. Wish they were all splash pages like this, but I get it. And then these are the other collected editions for the Ghost Rider series in case you're missing the Ed Brisson series. Next up is Miles Morales, Volume 7, Beyond. So this is the Saladin Ahmed series of Miles Morales. And here's the back right here. So here we have Miles with his new costume and Shift. So this happens, I want to say, during the time of Spider-Man Beyond. You need to have read any Spider-Man Beyond to understand what's going on? Not really. Miles does a really quick job of explaining what's going on. And if you're reading Spider-Man Beyond, are the books in here necessary? I think they help expand what's going on in the Beyond Corporation, but I don't think they're necessary. It's not like a huge event book like Part 1 is found in Spider-Man 85 and Part 2 is found here in Miles Morales' Spider-Man 34. So it does collect issues of Miles Morales, issues 33 through 36, and annual number 1, the A story. So here we have Miles Morales, and he's figured out where Assessor might be. So of course he goes and tells Shift. Now, I'm not going to tell you who Shift is in case you haven't been reading this particular era of Spider-Man, but I'm glad, let's just say, that he stuck around from something that I thought was going to go bad. Because anytime I see those two words together, I just get flashbacks of those 90s. And I'll be honest with you, I hated Miles Morales' costume, the new costume at first. But I kind of dig it now. I kind of like that coat that he wears. I think it's pretty cool. Alright, I mean, honestly, it could be the artist too, Christopher Allen or Michelle Bandini, that helps it come to life. I like this little the day shift. It's a 2-little pager written by Saladin Ahmed talking about how Shift spends his days when he's not with Miles. So yes, they do find Assessor where Assessor is, and they go after him, and then they run into Quantum. And Quantum is one of these characters that has been holding the gems here. So in these particular issues, because of some mishaps, we find Miles and Shift traveling through different dimensions. We have like this Western type of world. As a matter of fact, I think this is from an issue of Exiles, if I'm not mistaken, where it has the King, T'Challa here. Yeah. So they're bouncing around from world to world trying to find their home. And then we get the Annual in here. And the Annual is a team up between Saladin Ahmed and Amulet, which is a character found in the pages of Miss Marvel. As far as the extras back here, we do have some variant covers. The book retails for $15.99, and it has 120 pages. Alright, all you spine watchers, here's what all the spines look like from the books coming out this week. Smash that like button, pause it, mute me, whatever it is that you do here. But here they are. Next up is the third printing of Wolverine Epic Collection Madripoor Nights. And it's really interesting that this is the third time it's been printed, considering the second printing was in 2021. Now, I do have my first printing here. This is from 2014, I believe, is when the first one came out. And I will say that the new printing, the cover still doesn't cover all the pages here. It's always a pet peeve of mine sometimes with trade paperbacks when the covers don't cover the pages underneath. That happened with my first one. I was hoping they'd fix it by now, but nope, still the same thing. So I will do a little comparison. There's really not much difference other than maybe the paper stock that they use. But I can't, like, it just feels like it's the same paper stock. The colors seem a little bit more vibrant in the new printing, and I never took mine out in the sun or anything like that. I don't take these books to the beach or anything. I have been known, but I know which ones I have, and they feel a little more flatter, a little more duller in the original version. Well, I guess I am doing a comparison right now than they do the new printing. And I mean, just a little bit more vibrant here with the new printing. But yeah, that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. So in case you missed out on the previous printing, I don't have the one that just came out in 2021, but I do have my original printing to compare it to. Everything else is still the same. You have the creators here at the very front. So the main creators that help make the book. Like I said, the colors are just a little more vibrant. I believe probably the end, yeah, this paper it has to be different because we've expanded so much more. Yeah, believe it or not, these were all the epics that were around in 2014. Look how far we've come. And I'm assuming that the back... Oh my gosh, it's just an ad for X-Men. That's crazy. It's just an ad for X-Men Volume 1. I hadn't looked at that in a while. Because we've had reprints of the Omnibus and then the back here. Just showcasing how far we've come. And of course, the other big difference is the price. Wow, we've gone from 0-1 to 1. A little more official, I guess. But the price on the new printing is $44.99. The 2014 printing was $34.99. Now, let's look at this and talk about this particular book. This collects Wolverine 1 through 16. Marvel Comics presents just the Wolverine stories, these right here, 1 through 10, and Marvel Age number 4. So that's pretty much it. The Marvel Comics Presents issues just help set up what is going to happen in the life of Logan. So he has a new status quo. He is setting up in... Hey, Racer Fizz, that dude appeared in the Shang-Chi movie. So we have this new place called Madripoor. And Logan goes back to what Roma did for them at the end of Fall of the Mutants. And they walk through the Siege Perilous. So now they can't be detected by electronics. And the world thinks that the X-Men are no more. So that's what the new status quo is. And we have Wolverine out here. I love that flashback, by the way. In Madripoor. But he's joined by other people from his past. We have a depowered Jessica Drew. And then we have a brand new cast of characters. And the artwork in here, supplied by, my gosh, I've grown to love this guy in the last 4 or 5 years. Big John Buscema. I don't think I appreciated him as much. I know I did not appreciate him as much when I was getting these every month. There's no way. I just thought he was... I liked Mark Silvestri's style more as a kid. And I still do. But we wouldn't have Mark Silvestri without John Buscema. There's just this grittiness to Buscema's artwork. Man, he's so good. And Klaus Janson supplying the inks for this. Solid. Now, one thing I will say about the Epic collections that are different than the Omnibus editions is the mapping. This is one that comes to mind because the Omnibus, it felt like they were just going to do one Wolverine Omnibus and that was it. So let's go ahead and put the stories in there that kind of made him who he was. And one of the stories that they put in there was Weapon X. Why they didn't put Wolverine Origins, or Origin Wolverine, I don't know. I'm kind of glad they didn't, though. It's the Silver Samurai. And again, it's all the Princess Bar. Oh, I miss this era. The Princess Bar. Here's the Marvel Age Annual. It's got that issue in there, number 4. Just a little part. Bloodsport and Roughhouse. Yeah. And then each issue had a pin-up in the back. So like on the back cover, there was a pin-up. You got Todd McFarlane and like Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, Barry Windsor Smith right there doing the pin-ups. Now, like I was saying, the mapping is different. So you won't find Weapon X here, but that's how the Omnibus started. The books collected in here are collected in chronological order. The other thing that's missing from here, you're going to see right away, are things like Wolverine, the miniseries, the first 4-issue miniseries. That happened years before this ongoing series. So what this is really is Wolverine, the ongoing series. I guess... I don't know what it was. I don't know what the thinking behind that was. Maybe Marvel thought, okay, we've printed way too many versions of this Wolverine mini. We've got the trades. We got it in the X-Men Omnibus. It's in the Wolverine Omnibus. Let's just go ahead and focus on the Wolverine ongoing series with the epics. And that's what they did. So also missing are things like Shadowcat or Kitty Pryde and Wolverine miniseries. Those kind of things do show up in here, like characters. Oh, I love the team up here with Mr. Fix-It. Yeah, this was my childhood. Getting to read this stuff monthly. Here's the Rob Liefeld cover. This is the one that's drawn by Gene Colan and Peter David, doing the fill-in issue right there. Now, Peter David does end up taking over the book later on after Claremont leaves, and 24 Hours to me is completely worth owning this book for if you've never read it. And this is a flashback of Wolverine's birthday, and it's, he gets to talk about Silver Fox and the love that they had, and of course Sabretooth being the douchebag that he's always been in Wolverine's life. Yeah, this was an awesome issue. So we do go all the way to issue 16, and that is, of course, the Right Hand of God storyline right here by Peter David. I found that to be a really interesting story, and I thought Peter David knocked it out of the park. It felt more like an Indiana Jones type of story than a Wolverine story. But after reading the first 10 issues by Claremont and then one fill-in by Peter David, you kind of needed a break, and I'm glad. And he uses all the characters of Madripoor. The official title is the Johanna Stone Affair. It's a 6-parter. Now, as far as the extras in the back, let's look at those. So we have a Marvel H here with an article about the Marvel Comics Presents. It's a John Romita Jr. cover there. A lot of article on the Marvel Comics Presents. He's coming this summer. I love that ad. Then we have some pin-ups back here. And the book has 504 pages, and this particular version retails for $44.99. Unused cover. This is Sam Keith, who had his own story with Peter David. I believe that one's coming out in the next omnibus. I don't know if it's out on the next epic. I can't think straight right now. Here are the essentials. Sorry, it's my anniversary. I'm trying to book a restaurant for tonight. Because guess who likes doing things last minute? The guy talking to himself. All right. And here are all the uninked original pages or uncolored original pages. I love when they throw this stuff in here. And then, of course, the covers to the front and the back of the book with the new colors. But that is Wolverine, Madripoor Knights, the new printing. Last but certainly not least, Silver Surfer Parable. Man, is this book... this has been a long time coming. For those of you that have been watching my channel, I got to announce this with Curtis from the Epic Marvel podcast all the way back in 2020. It was supposed to come out in 2021. And finally it disappeared from the catalog, but I kept telling people it's not canceled. They were just moving it around the schedule. We had another Silver Surfer Epic Collection pop up, and that came out before this. And then this got shifted into this year, early this year. I believe it was supposed to come out in February. But here we are, June 21st, 2022, officially coming out. One of the best Epic collections of Silver Surfer. And we have Ron Lim's first few issues of Silver Surfer collected in here. So this does collect Silver Surfer 15 through 23. That's the series that kicked off in 1987. Annuals 1 and 2 in here, even though they're event annuals. You could still read them without following the events, one of them being the Evolutionary War. It's a team up with Icarus against the Super Skrull, and the rest of the Eternals will show up in here. And then the other one is the Atlantis Attacks part. And then you have graphic novel Silver Surfer. Oh, that's such a good one. That's the team up with Stan Lee and John Buscema. That's collected in here for the first time in Epic format, as well as Parable 1 and 2. And then you have material from Marvel Comics Presents #1. So here we have the phenomenal Ron Lim taking over with issue number 15. That pops up after the annual back here. And honestly, the annual helps set up some things. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you were following the Evolutionary War. This really does help set up the thing, especially with Nova and Galactus. Because you have to have read what was happening. I like these pinups, by the way. I always wondered who ripped these pinups up to hang them up on the wall. Did any of you rip out the Supreme Intelligence pinup to hang up on the wall? Because that's... Nah, I ain't shaming anybody. You do what you do. But what I was going to say is that I think the important book to read is. But anyway, what I was saying is this story right here of Nova, Moth to the Flame, is her returning to her master Galactus, because at this point she is the Herald, and also, has something going on with Silver Surfer, but that's all about to change. That sets up the events that are coming in the next issue, in issue number 15. So this is the team up with the Fantastic Four. Galactus is in need of something, and of course, he calls out to his favorite Once Upon a Time Herald, and that is the Silver Surfer. And I do love this. I love that Reed is worried that Evil Sue always means that she is turning back into Malice, even though she's not wearing her BDSM outfit, but I ain't shaming that either. I always enjoy that outfit. And then we get into the crazy cosmic saga of the In-Betweener, and then there's this huge fight between the In-Betweener and Galactus. I love that. Death shows up. So this is before Jim Starlin comes back to Marvel and starts writing the return of Thanos and Thanos Reborn. So Firelord gets in the middle of Nova and Silver Surfer. Surfer just goes through a lot. I feel really bad for Norrin during this particular era because it feels like he's dealing with, the thing with Mantis that he had, and now he's dealing with Firelord kind of like stealing his girl Nova. But all of this, believe it or not, is drawn by Ron Lim, and Ron Lim was carrying on this monthly series like nonstop. There were hardly any fill-in artists during this time. And then when Infinity Gauntlet hit, Ron Lim was like, yeah, I'll help George Pérez finish that series, no problem. Here is the Marvel Comics Presents issue. This is, I believe, written and drawn by Al Milgrom. But I think it's a good place for it, right here. Then we get this we do get a fill-in story, but I think, if you've ever read the behind the scenes on these things, how they work, sometimes they had to get these stories out while the creators were taking a break, whether it was the writer or the artist. And I don't mean a break, while they were taking a breather because they were focusing on something else or wrapping up something else. But this one is written and drawn by Marshall Rogers, and Michael Higgins does the particular script for this one. It's about the Elders, and it's interesting because it fits right here and just doesn't feel like the same tone of the stories going on in Silver Surfer. You have Ego show up here. Here's the crossover with the Fantastic Four. I'll skip in here and just showing some artwork. You have the return of the Deviant, and all that, of course, from Atlantis Attacks, this particular story here. Again, you don't need to have read Atlantis Attacks, but all of the Silver Surfer annual parts are collected in here, including the Serpent Crown story arc. That's pretty much how all the annuals were connected, was through the Serpent Crown backup stories. The main stories focus primarily on the characters and not really like, you must read part 2 to understand what's going on in part 3s and 4s. It wasn't like that. It was mainly just the backup stories of like the history of the Serpent Crown. I want to say that was drawn by Bagley. Was it written by Fabian Nicieza? Oh, the Saga of the Serpent Crown. That's what it was called. And I'm sorry, it was written by Peter Sanderson. But it was drawn by Bagley, so I was partially right. And then we get here, the graphic novel of Silver Surfer, and this was so unique. And this is what makes it parental advisory right here, for a little bit of language and content. Here's a beautiful introduction about Stan Lee, and this feels like a reunion between friends of like, hey, remember that Silver Surfer series we did? Let's work on something again. And this was John Buscema's idea. Big John was like, I want to do a Silver Surfer story. Well, we'll find you a scripter. This is really cool. So then Stan Lee's like, you know what? No, I'll write it. So if you've not read this, oh man, yeah, this is awesome. This is all done in splash pages. So it makes it a little more difficult for the script writer to tell a story with just splash pages. Keep in mind, this is, when was this, 1987, 1988 when this came out? So, people weren't doing things like this. I think we've had a lot of things like this since then, but this is a very experimental thing. Feels like big pieces of painted artwork, and you have to tell a sequential story with them. Oh, it's beautiful. If you've not read it, you're in for a treat. And then if you've not read Parable, oh man. One of my favorite standalone graphic novels of all time, even though it's 2 issues really, but it's collected in trade paperback and graphic novel format. It's been available in a beautiful Treasury edition. It's oversized, but that one's out of print right now. But I'm so glad that they kept it in here. Because, yes, I'm under the mindset that it's non-canon. It doesn't really take place in the Silver Surfer reading universe. It feels like a standalone story. It feels like it really doesn't belong in the mainline Silver Surfer universe, or timeline, rather. I don't care. It's freaking amazing. It's Mobius teaming up with Stan Lee to tell what I think is the greatest Silver Surfer story. Now, I've done an in-depth review of the oversized hardcover, or the Treasury edition. If you want to see that, it's on the channel. I'll leave the link above, or maybe I've already put it up there. But it's finally available in trade paperback format. This story has been available in many different formats. Marvel Premiere, trade paperback. It's been printed over and over again. But now it is officially here in Epic Collection. And you get to see Mobius draw not just Silver Surfer, but Galactus. Oh, such a great story. Let's look at the extras. So here's the extras with Marvel Age. Articles on actual Parable. Look at that detail in the buildings. What an awesome freaking drawing. Here is the Parable hardcover introduction by Stan Lee. This book, by the way, has 504 pages and retails for $44.99. The story and the breakdown of the artwork. This is all about Parable. Coloring and, man, just about everything. All the extras are Parable. Even back here. Then we get a couple of graphic novel covers, unused covers here. Big John. I wish that was a splash page. And then the Joe Jusko from the graphic novel Silver Surfer. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count for each of these collections. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you are picking up. Is this the way that you are collecting Wolverine? Or are you getting the omnibus editions? If you hope one day we'll get Steve Englehart's Silver Surfer in omnibus format. If you've never read Parable, man, you are in for a treat. And what you're thinking of these current runs. I'm sad to see Spider-Woman go. I hope she comes back in another series, because I believe this series was just completely overlooked. And it's so good to read more about my boy Danny Ketch and Johnny Blaze. And let me know what you think of Saladin Ahmed's Miles Morales series. This was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Smash that like button, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. And more importantly, all of you, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.